If it was not for the LA Regional Food Bank, we could not do
The backpacks that the LA Regional Food Bank provides are self-contained meals for the family.
World War II veteran. I've had 3 heart attacks, can't work anymore. But I think now that I have the food bank, I can make it. Just barely, but I can make it. I mean, it makes a difference between my dying and staying alive. Really.
I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to eat tomorrow morning.
But thanks be to God for the food banks. At least I know I will never go hungry again.
I don't have enough words to tell you how much I appreciate what you do.
The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank has really an interesting and rich history. We are one of the first food banks that was established in the United States. I think our founder, Tony Collier, is a great example of one person making a difference. He decided to jump in that pickup truck, start picking up food and getting it out. He didn't have any grand plan of what it was going to turn into. You know, he was doing the right thing. He knew this was going to help people. And that sort of ethos continues today, where one person can make a difference in this work. When food banks started many years ago, really it was just acquiring surplus, finding food that was destined for a landfill, but is still wholesome so it could feed somebody.
But all the time that I've been involved, 45 years, you've seen the LA area expand like crazy. Well, there's so much produced. We have plenty of food around the area that's contributed to us, and it's to get it to people that need it. And that's exactly what the LA Regional Food Bank does.
Over these past 50 years, some of the key milestones for the food bank is first getting established and becoming its own nonprofit organization in the late 1970s.
We developed a high profile about who the food bank was, what we do. The current group has built upon that, but we were there at the beginning. When I got involved, we had a lease facility of about 25,000 square feet in Vernon. One of the things that I did was work with our board. We knew we had to expand, and we spent a lot of time searching sites. We were looking for used warehouses. We really couldn't find anything. The CFO when I was president was a guy named Joe Colomb. Joe is the guy who started Trader Joe's. And Joe and I would get in my car, I'd pick him up, and we'd drive around South Central LA looking for spots. But we eventually found a site.
We were able to buy some property and have 1734 East 41st Street built on it. And of course, at the time, people said, well, you're never going to need a building bigger than this. Every time we moved, it was as if we were already at capacity.
Doris Block was a marvelous presence here at the food bank. And I think she's an important part of what the food bank has become.
The food bank here had challenges such as the Northridge earthquake in 1994 and other issues that happened during that time.
The riots were scary in the beginning because 1734 East 41st Street is located very close to where the whole thing started. And my first thing was, can we protect the staff? The second thing was to help all the agencies, partners, get as much access to food as they might need because there was such a sudden increase in people who needed the services of the food bank.
About 25 years ago, our food bank here in Los Angeles and a couple of others around the country really started focusing on the nutrient quality of the food that we're handling. It led to the acquisition, handling, and distribution of fresh produce.
When I first came, most of the product that we received was canned and packaged goods. We brought in less than 100,000 pounds of produce, and now we're bringing in millions of pounds of produce.
And that really changed a lot of things for us in terms of increased refrigeration in our facilities, more refrigerated trucks, and really changing how we think about our work and our business. That's an example where we look to be on the forefront of innovation, focusing on nutrition education, direct service programs, to families, to children, to seniors.
Innovation has always been key in the programs department, such as the Emergency Food Assistance Program, the CalFresh program, also known as SNAP, the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, Children Nutrition Programs, Child and Adult Care Food Program, and the Summer Food Service Programs. Due to COVID, we had to implement the home delivery program. And for years, we've always talked about, one day we'll implement a home delivery program where we're able to deliver meals, groceries to people who are in need.
The mobile food pantry is a good example of that, where we're going to locations where we know there's need, there's demand for food assistance, but maybe not one of our agencies nearby.
Behind me, we are distributing approximately 30 pounds of food to each student, depending on how much they want to take with them. And then we also serve members of the community. Food insecurity is a really big issue for community college students. It also affects students at four-year colleges, of course. We're just so honored and happy and privileged to be able to help with that distribution process to support our students.
If there wasn't a thing like this, I'd probably start selling everything that I had, like just stuff like that.
We started a program called Extra Helpings in the late 1990s. So basically it's linking our agency partners directly to food resources so that they can pick this food up directly for those that have transportation and distribute it in an efficient way. We've also been focusing on how can we increase the capacity of our agencies, because trainings are great, but it's not enough. In order to fulfill the mission of the food bank, it takes many different partners. It starts with food, coming from private sources and government sources. The vast majority of it is donated, and then we do purchase a little bit of food, so that does give us the opportunity to kind of fill the gaps of what's not coming in donations. Partners can be individuals, companies, foundations. Government partners are very important for us. That outreach, getting people excited about getting involved in this work, and that their involvement can make a big difference in the lives of many in our area, Los Angeles County.
Now we have so many programs. We're helping hundreds of thousands of people.
During the Great Recession, another time where the demand for food assistance increased markedly like we hadn't seen before, but the resources coming in weren't necessarily enough to meet all those needs. And I think that's one of the challenges we have in the nonprofit sector in terms of how do you try to balance that? How do you balance this overall demand and need for services on one hand and what you have available for resources on the other hand? So when the pandemic first hit in March of 2020, the food bank needed to really transform its work in many different ways. What we found we needed to do, one of the biggest impacts, was really turn our mobile food pantries into larger drive-through distributions. 2020 and 2021 were absolutely record years.
I would turn on the television and I would see lines of people at these huge stadiums waiting to be fed. And so I knew that my team and I were a small piece of having that product there. And so even though it was there, the days were hard and the days were long, it was really a good feeling to see the impact of the work that we do.
I think our team did just a phenomenal job of being nimble. The first priority was trying to figure out a way to keep people safe.
Checking in with employees for mental health, wanting to make sure that they had all of the tools and the equipment that they needed to work effectively and safely.
COVID-19, the pandemic really changed the volunteer department and the work that we did. We utilized a lot of our individual volunteers to be out there in the community to help distribute food to families and children that were in need. The team really knew that regardless of the pandemic, there were still people in need of food assistance.
It was somewhat overwhelming because there was so much work to be done, and we had to really pivot to really support remote work, just making sure our systems kept up and running.
How are we going to more than double our food distribution, which in that 2020 year, our food distribution increased by 145% in a matter of weeks. I just have a great appreciation for the food bank staff, food bank volunteers, agency partners, everyone who just stepped up. We saw family after family just come through and just rolling down their window and saying, thank you for being here, thanking the volunteers, thanking everyone, the donors, everyone who made that happen. Because for so many, it was just such a desperate situation that there was some sense of relief that there were people there who cared enough to be able to help them. We add the most value typically in larger volumes of food. That's how food banks kind of got going in the beginning, to be able to have these large facilities, cold boxes, freezers, to be able to store food until the agencies needed it.
We started with a little warehouse, and then from a little warehouse, we got a larger warehouse. And then from the 54th Street Vernon warehouse, we got an even bigger temporary warehouse in the City of Commerce. And we outgrew that as well. And so we realized that the needs of the community continue to grow, and we're growing with it.
We've acquired a very large building in the City of Industry that's having a huge positive effect in increasing the capacity of the food bank.
Well, of course, I'm amazed at the size of the whole thing. When way back in the 70s when we started, it was just a little pipsqueak organization. And just driving in front of the building to see how massive the building itself is, and you're thinking, is that place going to be full of food? And you get inside and it even becomes more massive with all the pallets and the racks around.
I think one of the biggest accomplishments over these past 50 years, going back to the founding of the food bank by Tony Collier in 1973, is how much food we've acquired and distributed during that time. We'll have reached the 2 billion pound mark in 2023 in terms of food and some non-food items that we also access. You know, that's the equivalent of more than 1.6 billion meals going out to families, seniors, children, adults, and others throughout Los Angeles County. And that has made a huge difference in the lives of so many people over these past 50 years.
If it wasn't for these people, I don't know what I would do without them. And you're making a difference.
Without them, we wouldn't be able to make it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the food that you give me.
Más que todo, dale gracias.
It's a lot more than a food program.
Yo les agradezco mucho por su bondad, por su misericordia que tienen hacia las familias.
I'm extremely grateful and thankful.
Keep the good work up.